Salve te discipuli, this is Help for Your Latin Studies in Henle First Year Latin, exercise number 231. Before we get into this exercise, we do have a page. We're entering into a whole new lesson, actually. So we do have a page of reading that you will want to be sure to do before you jump into exercise 231. But just to summarize what's here, we are now learning about the perfect system of the indicative passive. So you'll remember that every verb has four principal parts, and as you're memorizing those verbs, you want to memorize all of the four principal parts. For example, laudo, laudare, laudavi, laudatus. The first principal part, laudo, that is our present system. And from that we conjugate three different tenses: present, imperfect, and future. And then the second principal part is the infinitive, laudare, meaning to praise. The third principal part is from the perfect system, laudavi, meaning I praised, and you would conjugate three more tenses from that principal part. So the perfect, the perfect, the pluperfect, and the future perfect. So those three tenses come from that third principal part. And then finally, the fourth principal part is this. It is the perfect participle passive. So this is taking that perfect form of the verb and turning it into the passive voice. Okay, so it tells us here that what it is like it's like giving the predicate adjective. It's taking a verb and turning it sort of into an adjective. And so the ending of that fourth principal part, laudatus, or in this case, it's giving us magnus to show us how it's like an adjective. So we would take that fourth principal part like laudatus, which means praised, and we would have it agree with the noun that it modifies in gender, number, and case. In this case, as a predicate adjective, it modifies the subject. And so, for example, and we would pair it with a form of sum, the appropriate form of sum. So review your sum chant, sum est, sumus estis sunt, and how those are first, second, third person singular, and then first, second, third person plural forms. Because whatever your subject is, if it's first, second, third person singular or plural, you're going to want this form of the verb to agree. Like an adjective, you would start with whether it's masculine, feminine, or neuter, and then give it the appropriate ending that agrees with the subject in gender, number, and case. And then you would pair it with a form of sum that also agrees. So, for example, I was praised. We have our our pronoun for I, ego. And then this us ending is masculine, singular, and nominative. So it's agreeing with the subject in gender, number, case. And then our accompanying sum verb is sum. That means I am. That is first person singular. Okay, another example. Tu laudatus es. Tu is our pronoun for you, our subject. The next word, laudatus, here is like an adjective, and it agrees with the subject in gender, number, and case. And then our form of sum es, second person singular, goes along with that, and it means you were praised. And so go through all these examples and make sure that you understand the endings of that perfect participle passive that we're working with now. Okay, and then let's go ahead and take a look at exercise 231, which is actually a bit simpler than completely mastering this information here. So in exercise 231, it simply wants us to give the perfect participle passive, or in other words, the fourth principal part of each of the verbs listed. Now, you'll want to be sure that you know their conjugation. Some of the third conjugation, fourth conjugation verbs have some differences in their principal parts. So this is going to be good review to go through all of these verbs. This is probably a pretty comprehensive list of all of the verbs that you've been introduced to so far. So really, this is an exercise in reviewing your verb vocabulary, and do go through those 4 principal parts to find the 4th principal part. So for example, number 1 says laudo. So I would think to my verb vocabulary here, and I would think, okay, laudo, laudari, laudare, laudavi, and then the 4th principal part, laudatus. Okay, and then my number 2 says moneo. So I would think through my 4 principal parts. Moneo, monere, monui, monitus. And then number 3, supero. Supero, superare, superavi, superatus. Okay, number 3 is habeo. Habeo, habere, habivi, habitus. Okay, so just keep working through the whole list so that you get good review on your verbs and their 4 principal parts, so that you can, and then record for the exercise, you'll record that 4th principal part. And I hope this has been helpful. Have a great day.